One of the great days in our calendar is November 11, specifically at the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. Originally, that was to celebrate the end of the Great War, the war to end all wars, as it was called at the time, World War I. We now know that that was not the case. Every time America's men and women were called to defend our way of life, to defend our values, to defend our very shores, the armed forces of the United States have answered the call. Whether those soldiers were drafted into the armed forces or enlisted on their own, they answered the call. Many paid the ultimate sacrifice. They died on the field of battle and did not come back to their loved ones. Many paid the terrible sacrifice of losing a limb, an arm, a leg, suffering intellectual disabilities. Many came back with post-trauma stress that was so severe that it is a disorder. They answered the call every time. Our own Mr. Lee continues today to answer the call. Boys and girls, would you mind giving Mr. Lee a round of applause? God bless you, Mr. Lee. Now, there are groups of people who not only put their lives at risk in the field of battle, defending our way of life, they came home and decided, for the rest of my career, I'm going to continue to put myself in harm's way to protect people, to defend our laws, to defend our way of life. We have someone with us today who did those two amazing things. I am now going to invite Captain Murphy to the microphone, and I ask that you give Captain Murphy a round of applause for thanks.
Morning, everybody. I want to thank you for having me here today. I appreciate it. It's great to see everybody. I served in the United States Marine Corps for almost 6 years. After my honorable discharge, I then was lucky enough to get a job here at Woodbridge Township as a Woodbridge police officer. I'm originally from Woodbridge, Port Riding section. I graduated from Woodbridge Middle School. I graduated from Woodbridge High School before going off to the Marine Corps. So I appreciate you doing this, and it's an honor to serve everybody because I love seeing the freedoms that everybody gets to enjoy out here. I'm not a man of many words, so I'm going to keep this short, but understand and appreciate what a lot of great people have done before us, and they're going to probably continue to do to keep this country free. Thank you.
Mr. Harris.
Good morning, everyone. Dr. Crow said it all, without question, and Detective Murphy, Captain Murphy said it also. The freedoms which you have today, I know many of you, you don't think about it and you just take it like this is the way of life. But as he said, many people went before me, has definitely went before you, for you to enjoy the way of life that you're having right now. I know, you may hear people talk about this country, but you know what? Many of you have not traveled to other countries where their freedom, their say-so, how they want to live is very limited. You have such opportunity to be successful because of the men and women who went before you to allow you to get an education, to allow you to go to college, to allow you to do whatever trade or skill, whatever dream, really, that you want to achieve. Men and women that went before you. So take this opportunity, as he just shared with you, and what Dr. Crow has shared, to seize the moments. Thank you.
We now invite our fine chorus to play America the Beautiful for us. We ask that you stand and face the flag. Before we continue, I just noticed that our very own Mrs. Harris has stepped in, who served our country so nobly in the Air Force. Could we give Mrs. Harris a round of applause? At this point in the program, we were scheduled to be outside, where we would where we would raise the flag and then say the Pledge of Allegiance. Well, our flag is already on a stand, so we won't be able to raise the flag, but we can stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
So I was wondering if you could just start off by just telling us a little bit about yourself, when you served, how long you served for.
I'm a 1992 graduate of Woodbridge High School. I joined the Marine Corps while I was a senior at Woodbridge High School. I shipped off right after graduation, and I served for almost 6 years. So active duty. I did a total 8 years of my reserve time.
And this was with the Marines?
Yes, I had 2 MOSs. I was a avionics technician and a crew chief. So a lot of people refer to crew chiefs as door gunners, but there's a lot more to it than just a gun. So it's actually a very fun job. I got to fly quite a bit while I was in the Marines. So.
Wow. And so avionics, I'm assuming that has to do with flying?
It's all the electronic components of the aircraft. The aircraft we talked about is a helicopter we call the CH-46. It's no longer in service in the Marine Corps. I don't know if the Navy's still using it, but the Marine Corps no longer uses it. It was replaced by the Osprey. The plane that looks like a helicopter, that the rotor's still, so that the aircraft I was on was replaced by that. I think that's called the V-22 Osprey.
Oh, wow.
So.
Okay, excellent. Well, I'll open up the floor for questioning. So basically the way this will work is they'll raise their hand and you can just call on them.
Okay.
What's a valuable lesson you learned while serving?
I learned a lot of lessons. I did a lot of growing up in that time frame. And one thing I say over and over again is I think 18 to 22 is a very difficult time to navigate when you're growing up. Don't become complacent and waxed, and the military usually doesn't allow you to do that, so it's a great place to be. So I'm not saying go in the military, but go to college, go to the military, chase that trade job, but don't become complacent and sit around doing nothing. So I think the best thing I can tell you is it taught me to chase my dreams. I've always been motivated, but the military doesn't let you slack on that one.
Hi, I'm Chris from the Warrior Messenger. Thank you for your service again. Honor, courage, and commitment are listed as 3 pillars for being a Marine. Can you explain a time when you realized the importance of that?
Honor, courage, and commitment. I think the lines between them become blurred and they become one. I think you need to live your life honorably, not just serve honorably. Treat everybody as you want to be treated. Part of the reason a lot of us serve is because of the freedom. Like something I mentioned, and it's a big reason of it. People have different views from other people, and we need to respect each other's views and how that is. And that's what allows this country to be great. We're not being told by the government what our views are on things. We're allowed to make our own determination. And something I think that transitions over to the journalism side of this is that you need to report honorably and put good facts out there so people can read that and make their decision on things. So we don't want to try and steer people to make decisions in this country. We want to let people, that's why we vote, and that's why some of us look different, some of us act different. It's because of that. And that's also why we're great, and that's why I think we've been successful as long as we have.
Good morning, I'm Lexi from the Warrior Messenger. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Why did you want to become a Marine?
So there's a long history in my family of naval service. I'm actually the first Marine in my family, which the argument could be made is the Marine Corps is part of the Navy. So I was definitely drawn to the naval service, and I happen to know a few guys that went in the Marine Corps before me. I thought the way they carried themselves and presented themselves just seemed to be that much better than every other branch, and I bought into that, and I love it. I love the fact that I could say I'm a Marine. If you ask somebody in another branch of the service, and I'm stealing these words from somebody else that said this many years ago to me, is if you ask somebody in another branch of the service what they do, they're likely to respond to you with their military occupational specialty. I'm an electrician, or I'm a manager of this or that. If you ask the Marine what they do, they'll tell you they're a Marine. The Marine Corps is the only branch of the service where everybody's a basic rifleman, and then your military applicational specialties trained after that. So we're a little bit different than everybody else in that aspect, and I take a lot of pride in that. So.
Good morning. My name is Eliza from the Warrior Messenger. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Marines.com says that Marines train for 5 days and take 2 days off. What were the off days like?
Just like everybody else's off days. I don't know that the 5 to 2 thing is necessarily true. I'm not doubting that it says that. But we do get days off just like everybody else. I mean, there's times that we work for months without days off, and then there was times we had weeks off at a time. So our days off are just like everybody else's. Whatever you enjoy doing, we're pretty much allowed to do as long as it's done, as we said before, honorably. We don't want to draw negative attention. We want to be viewed as professionals. So there's a lot, everybody does stuff. When I was in the Marine Corps, we were playing a lot of volleyball at the time. I guess it was a cool sport, and I happened to be stationed out of California, so going to the beach was always fun to play volleyball.
So I was telling you a little bit earlier about my dad, that he was able to go to Columbia as a result of joining the ROTC through the Marines. And one of the funny things there is that actually he couldn't swim. And they had to do a lot of like beach sieges and training and things along those lines. And I remember that was a major thing for him to overcome because he didn't know how to swim. And so he owes a lot of overcoming his fears and being able to, again, overcome fears to that. I was wondering if, like, what did you learn to overcome as a result of joining and maybe through training?
So I think anybody who tells you they don't have fears, they're lying to them. We all have something we're fearful of. We have some things we're uncomfortable doing. I learned in the Marine Corps that I could do anything that I put my mind to. I'm not a fan of heights, and there was plenty of times in boot camp where the Marine Corps made sure we were in uncomfortable situations in high areas, and you know, I still don't love them, but I can handle it. So, and I think that's the important thing to learn is you might not like something, but you can handle it if you put your mind to it, put the effort into it. So.
We all know that any military training is not that easy. What was the most difficult part of training for you?
I think actually the hardest part of basic training was the knowledge that they were passing on to us. The Marine Corps takes a lot of pride in their history, and we had to do a lot of memorization of those that served before us, and mixing that in with the physical requirements and then the long days and the heavy routine. I found it very hard to learn under a stressful condition, and I did get through it, so it's doable. It's just a matter of what your mindset is, and my mindset has changed substantially over the years. Back when I was 17 years old, I would probably, and it's the case in this matter, I would rather have served in the Marine Corps than have gone to college. I was more scared of the classroom at that age than I was of serving. So, and it's just, I don't think I could have told you that when I was 17, but looking back on it, I realize that now that was something I had to fight through, and fighting through learning things academically. And quite honestly, if it wasn't for the military, I don't think I'd be where I'm at in the police department. Because the police department requires quite a bit of academics, and we have to test for ranks and things like that. And it's difficult to progress if you're not willing to put the time and effort in to get to where you want to go.
I read that the Marines are much like a family. Did it feel like family when you served?
Absolutely. I have guys I haven't seen since I was discharged in 1997, and I have guys that I haven't seen since then, but I still talk to weekly. I talk to some of those guys more. My best friend from the Marine Corps lives in Indiana right now, and I talk to him all the time. I talk to him more than my friends that live by me. So. I wish we lived a little closer, but the phone, the internet's a great way to keep in touch. It works out good.
What would you tell somebody that's in the Marine Corps right now?
Do the best you can. Don't be discouraged by the bad times, and that goes out into real life as well. There's going to be good times. There's going to be bad times, and press on. Don't give up. run towards something, don't run away from it. You know, chase your dreams. If something's not working out well for you, and you need to move on to something else, that's fine. Don't just quit without a plan. Have a plan to execute and go after it.
I was actually listening to a podcast hosted by a Navy SEAL, and he discussed, I love your answer to that, don't be discouraged by the bad times. And he was discussing how the bad times are actually the good times in some sense, because they prepare you for life. And a way of looking at those bad times is to view them as, this is going to make you a stronger person. Is there any specific situations that may have made you stronger?
Yeah, there was a lot. There was long hours. There was some letdown. You know, you work hard for something and it doesn't materialize, and you think somebody who is less deserving than you gets it, and that's just life. You know, we all view things differently, and just because I think I did something better than somebody else doesn't necessarily mean I'm right. So, and if you keep the positive attitude in those bad times, I feel things do work out in the long run. You know, I think you're more likely as a good person to have good things happen to you than if you're a bad person. Not to say bad things can't happen to good people, but I think you're more likely that if you're going down the right road, that things are going to come your way.
It's kind of like making your own luck. In a
Yes,
sense.
absolutely.
As you said,
I'm sorry.
as you said,
Yeah, we'll go with her first, and then we'll come back. I'm sorry.
Was transitioning from a Marine to a police officer difficult?
So I didn't. I had a little bit of a hard time with the academy, and the only I did well in the academy. So don't take me saying I had a hard time with it that I didn't do well there. I actually did very well in the academy, but I struggled with because I had this mindset when I got out of the Marine Corps of I've already been there, done that, and I did not like going back to the start again. Academically, I did well. Physically, I did well. But when I was there, I was definitely not liking having somebody, in some cases, guys that were younger than me, yelling at me, trying to get me in line with the way that the police department was going to expect from us. The good part is that our department is made up substantially of veterans, so and I think we're pretty heavy on Marines as well. So I think that end of things, once I got to the department and started working, I loved it, and I still love it after 23 years now. So.
If you could give one piece of advice for someone trying to do the same thing, transitioning over to a police officer, what would it be?
Don't ever give up. It's not an easy process. I've had a lot of people that ask me about becoming a police officer. It's a long process. If you can get hired within a year, that's very quickly. I know people that have taken 4 or 5, 6 years to get hired. My cousin is a state trooper. It took him almost 12 years to become a trooper, and he never gave up. If that's what you want, go after it. Also, you gotta have thick skin. There's some people that just look negatively upon us because of what we do for a living. And I think some of the stuff you read and hear out there isn't necessarily true. The majority of the officers are good people. Don't get me wrong, there's always a small percentage of people that get into careers that are not good people, and we try to drum them out as quickly as we can. So.
as you said, there was either months where you didn't stop working, and there's long hours, as you said. In what ways did you feel stronger, physically and mentally?
I became acutely aware of I was capable of a whole lot more than I ever thought I was capable of. I was an athlete in high school. I played football, I wrestled. So I was, in my opinion, at that time, I was challenged when I was in high school. Little did I know that was the tip of the iceberg. When you're fighting sleep deprivation and you're expected to do something physical, or mentally trying to solve something when you're without sleep for sometimes days, because it does happen, it becomes difficult, and you realize I can still do this. I hope none of you guys have ever drank or done drugs, but you start getting sleep deprivation, it definitely becomes difficult to do things, almost to the point where it's similar to some kind of impairment that you would have in alcohol or drugs.
So I love your answer, and you've referenced this several times, and it makes me really happy every time somebody talks about how difficult something was. Because sometimes I feel like when people see other successful people like yourself, they don't really discuss how difficult it was. So I love the fact that you're talking about that. And the willingness to admit something is difficult. How important is it to have a support system to go through these situations with and to share these difficulties with?
So I'm going to go to the police department side to answer that question. When I was in the Marine Corps, I was single. I was only worried about myself, other than meaning being successful. I was always obviously worried about my guys that I was with, the other Marines. But it was a lot easier only having to be responsible for me. Since I've been a police officer, I've gotten married, I've got kids, and I wouldn't be a captain today at the police department if it wasn't for the support I got from my family. Each promotion I got, whether it was detective, sergeant, lieutenant, or captain, if my family didn't step up and give me the time to study and go to classes to prep for those tests, I would never have been able to deal with my other responsibilities. Because something would have had to give there. And without the support system, there's no way I would have gotten it done. There's no way. I thank my wife after every time I got promoted that she was there for me. And my kids were great about it too, because they were told, you're gonna have to toe the line for the next few months. Dad'll be here. Like, I didn't never miss any of the sporting events or anything like that, but the whistle blew, I was right back to studying. So I was there as much as I could, but I also was taking it very seriously because I took that as the way that I was going to help provide the best I could for my family.
In what ways did your peers affect you on the job?
My peers?
Yes.
I have had peers that affect me positively and negatively. I've had some guys that I am in awe of their sacrifice and willing to step up when the time's needed, and I've also been let down sometimes. Some people can be a disappointment in some circumstances. I mean, we all have personalities, different personalities, and we're going to get along better with some people than we would with other people. And during COVID was a great example. When COVID first hit, there were some people that I don't necessarily love, but they really stepped up and got the job done, and I was impressed with that. So I actually learned a lot in the past 2 years since COVID hit with some character of some people. I was really impressed with some, and there's some others that are, wasn't so impressed with it. And sometimes when I see things that I'm not so impressed with, I try to make it an effort not to do what they're doing. So hopefully that helps.
How did it feel on the first day being a police officer compared to the first day of a Marine?
Okay, so the big difference between the Marine Corps and the police department is, once you're out on the road as a police officer, you're kind of on your own a lot. Once you're done with your initial training, you're really thrown out there by yourself. You're expected to handle things by yourself. So the Marine Corps was great because there's a great support structure. You're very rarely by yourself. There's always a senior guy to go to. And not only there's a senior guy to go to, he's with you. In the police department, you're thrown out there and you've got to figure things out. Now, if there's a senior guy to go to, but sometimes it takes time, you've got to call them. Now, back when I got hired, we didn't have cell phones, so you had to get somebody on the radio. Hopefully they'd be able to come to you or something along those lines. I know you can laugh at me about this, but there was times I actually got on the payphone and called and asked the question. But it's the way things were, and you figure it out. And there's times and situations that you're giving people advice and stuff you don't know. I was 23 years old about when I became a police officer, and I'm going to domestic disputes between a husband and wife. I wasn't married. I barely had a long-term relationship with my wife at that time as boyfriend and girlfriend. So, and I'm trying to tell them how to behave in their house. And, it's very difficult to put you in this situation. And I think the ultimate goal as a police officer is to just make things as peaceful as you possibly can. I think that a lot of people feel fearful of us and think we're bad people and we're there to lay the law down. It's not the case. We want things to be peaceful and everybody to get along, and we try our best to do that for the most part.
So you would say that they expected more on you as a police officer?
I don't want to say they expected more. It was just a little bit of a difficult situation when you're by yourself. Like, if you could imagine, you play sports?
Mm-hmm.
What do you play?
Baseball and basketball.
Okay. So could you imagine playing basketball by yourself? Like, one-on, what do you think? One-on-one's probably a little bit more difficult than playing full court with a full team, right?
Yeah.
So that's the comparison I guess I can make there. Teammates go a long way, and it will get you to accomplish things. So everybody's got their role, And when they're there, no matter how small it is, it makes a big difference. Like, don't ever underestimate the people that make your day a lot better. Like, what are you eating for lunch today, you know?
Whatever the school has.
Whatever school has. So somebody prepped your lunch. Like, it's either mom or dad or the school prepped it for you. So could you imagine if you had to get up this morning and make it? It would make a difference. You'd have to get up early, you'd have to prep your lunch, you'd have to be prepared to go out. And that might happen to you one day. You know, so don't take for granted what other people are doing for you. That makes your day a lot easier. Like, you see people, I'm sure you've seen, you go out to the store and you see somebody yelling at the lady at the cash register. She didn't do anything wrong. She doesn't deserve to be yelled at. So that's, don't underestimate what everybody's doing.
How did it feel coming back home permanently?
It felt pretty good. I enjoyed being in. I thought, and I don't have any experience in this, but I thought being in the military was going to be a difficult place to have a family, and that was a big reason I actually got out, because I wanted to have a wife and children, and I thought I'd be able to have a much more stable family life if I got out. So I did.
I love what you said earlier about, I think the quote was, I learned a lot about the character of people, especially in the face of adversity. I was wondering, how was your character impacted in the face of the adversities that you faced, even currently on your current job in the Marines as well?
Well, I think that there's adverse situations I've been in where I think I've reacted very well, and there's other ones where I'm disappointed in how I reacted. I think it's important to mentally prepare for the unknown, and you can't prepare for everything. So sometimes when something I've never thought about pops up, it's difficult to wrap your head around it. So, you know, it's your outlook on life and your safety changes as you get older and you get other responsibilities. When I was younger and it was just me, I wasn't as cautious of things. As I became responsible for my wife and my children and realizing that I have to provide, I definitely, my concern for my safety became much more. So I don't know if that puts things in the right aspect, but that's how I think about it.
What were the hardest things to adjust to in the Marine Corps?
The hardest things initially were being told what to do for everything initially. We take for granted our freedoms, you know, and you're not always told what to do all the time in the Marine Corps, but initially you are. When you're in boot camp, you're told when you're going to the bathroom, when you're showering, when you're going to brush your teeth, what you're going to be doing today, what time you're getting up, what time you're going to bed, and that's a tough adjustment. I don't think that there's too many people out there that is seamless.
What was your favorite achievement through your time in service?
So when I went into the Marine Corps, my initial MLS, which is military occupational specialty, I was an avionics technician. There was a lot of training that went involved into that, but once I got out to the fleet, which is what we call it, where you're actually doing stuff and not learning anymore, I saw these guys flying, and I'm like, I want to fly. So not only did I have to do my job as an avionics technician, I now had to take on an apprenticeship of being able to become a crew chief. And honestly, the day I got my wings pinned on me, I was very happy about achieving that, because it was a lot of work, but it was also very rewarding. I really enjoyed doing it. Flying is one of the things I really missed the most about being in it. It's something I actually did, and it was great.
What caused you to want to fly and go into that?
I don't know. I honestly have no idea. To go into to enlist into the military, you got to take what's called the ASVAB test. I took the test, I scored well, and they laid out a bunch of jobs. The avionics drew my attention. I think at the time I was thinking maybe when I got out I'd be an electrician or something along those lines, and I think it sounded fun, and that's kind of drew my attention to it. I think I don't have a really good answer for that.
Yeah.
I don't regret it though.
Yeah, so I'm assuming you've dealt a lot with technology, right?
I over my life, yeah, absolutely.
So I was wondering, how has technology changed over the course of when you started to now, and how has that influenced your job?
So, I mean, from the Marine Corps even to now with the police department, these little fancy phones we have here are what could have been months-long debate in the past is now answered in seconds. So there's no more of a question of what was that place called or what's this fact. How do I get here? GPS is probably one of my favorite things of technology, and that goes for in the military or in the civilian world. I mean, you could now just get into the cockpit of an aircraft, plug in coordinates, and what would have taken mapping before, and the time out of your day to set up. I mean, you decide you want to go to your friend's house in California, and now you just plug it in, you go. There's no more preparation and all that stuff, and probably they know the fastest route to get around the traffic too. So it's amazing how technology has helped us.
I have a horrible sense of direction, so when GPS came out, it's been fantastic for me.
I agree. I think it's phenomenal.
Yeah.
How did you handle the requirements to get into the Marine Corps?
I asked the people that I knew that recently joined, and I also spoke to a recruiter, and really talking to my parents, my father, and those my family that's also served prior. So I gathered as much information I could. I think, like we were just talking about with the phone, it's not as simple anymore as plugging in, hey, what's being in the Marine Corps like, or any of that stuff. You had to actually find somebody to talk to back then, or read a book. And quite honestly, most of the books in the library were old at the time, so you didn't really know how good that stuff was. And to be honest, even further, I don't know that I would have went to length to only take the book out of the library back then. So.
What are some of your hobbies now?
I like taking care of my yard. You can laugh at me if you want, but I like cutting my grass. I like having the outside of the house looking good. I spend a lot of time, well, my time's got cut in half now because my son's left for the Naval Academy now, but I spent a lot of time taking my kids to sporting events. I was all over the East Coast, both my kids playing soccer. I'm just down on my daughter now, who's 16. She's still playing, so I love it. I can't get enough of them playing sports. It's a huge pleasure. I don't care if they win, lose, or draw, but see them out there fighting to win, I love it. I really do. I love the work they put in practice. I love watching them play games, and I get a lot of pleasure out of it. So I'm gonna have to find another hobby besides my yard once my daughter's done playing.
So you mentioned that you just love watching your kids play sports, and again, going back to what you said, is that when you were in the Marines specifically, you gained a greater appreciation for the freedoms that you have because of the structure. Now, do you have a greater appreciation for those things now as a result? And also, how do you think other people that have not experienced that can achieve a greater appreciation for their freedoms?
Well, so first off, I don't want to assume what other people think.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll comment on my way of thinking. I absolutely appreciate things a whole lot more as I've had my experiences throughout my life. The Marine Corps has opened my eyes up to a lot of things. The police department's opened my eyes up to a lot of things. My wife has, and my kids really taught me a lot. Like, I don't think you guys realize how much impact you have on your parents. It's huge. I said this before, and I mean it, the only title I have better than Marine is Dad. So.
And did you play any sports in high school, or?
I did. I played football, and I wrestled, and I was also on the golf team in high school. So.
which one of those was your favorite?
Wrestling by far.
Okay. Did that help you at all in the Marines?
Yeah, I've always been hands-on, and there was physical events in the Marine Corps that we had to partake in, and I'm very comfortable in those environments. I like that more than well, back then anyway. I liked that more than I did studying at the time. So now I really do appreciate reading. And something I spend quite a bit doing still. It's interesting how it's changed over the years.
Right, and I also, again, going back to the whole idea of education in the Marines, in the Army, I was speaking with Mr. Lee. He's just continuing education all the time. I feel like when so many people think about the military, education is not the first thing that comes to mind. So I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about the marriage of those two things and how important that is.
So to answer your question, I think the simplest way I can put it is knowledge and power. Without knowledge, it doesn't matter how tough you are, especially these days. Where I think many years ago you could get through with a strong attitude and a couple fights, and I don't think that's the case anymore. I think if you don't have information to back yourself up, you look stupid. And looking stupid in the long run is ultimately going to be what's going to hurt you.
Did you notice a change in your personality while you served?
I think I did notice a difference in my personality, but I do accredit it more to my maturing of my age. Obviously, my experiences weighed in on it, but I think, like I said before, 18 to 22 is a very difficult time, and I think there's a lot of growing up, maturing, and understanding things that happens in that time. It's whether you go to college, you go to military, you go to trade school, you don't become a productive member of society. I still think there's still a lot going on at that age. And you're almost in a race at that point to establish yourself and start your life on a good note. If you don't try to chase the dream at that point, you're behind the power curve, and I think the rest of your life becomes that much more difficult. Not to say you can't catch up, but it's very important to set yourself up well at that point.
Hey, does anyone have any last minute questions that they want to ask before we wrap up? All set? All right, well, Captain Murphy, thank you so much. And again, thank you for your service. It was really an honor to have you sit down with us, be able to ask you these questions, and we really appreciate your time and everything that you've done for us.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
All right.